might try to break off of Ethiopia in the future, at least until the center is rich. Then of course, they'll beg to stay. But just when will that heart of Ethiopia get rich? After all, it isn't exactly that wealthy nowadays, ranking 63rd worldwide by GDP and 167th by GDP per capita. The country hopes though that it will grow tremendously. The population may cause some light unrest, but undoubtedly it'll bring jobs, education, and cold hard cash to the nation. Right now, the Ethiopian economy is fairly pre-industrialized. 85% of the labor force and 40% of the GDP works in material extraction, mainly in farming different vegetables, yet mining is a substantial business in the mountains. The other 15% of the labor force and bulk of the economy is working in industry and services. Industry like making textiles, clothing, and engine or aircraft manufacturing, and services like finance, telecommunications, and transportation. It is expected that these latter two will absolutely explode as the young population starts filling these jobs. Ethiopia is expected to become a manufacturing hub of Africa, and with the continent's population growing to 4 billion by 2100, the Ethiopians will certainly have a large market in their vicinity. If Lagos, Nigeria is trying to become a continent-wide financial hub, the New York City of a new Africa, Addis Ababa will be the Chicago, a manufacturing and transportation center of the continent. However, Ethiopia still has a long way to go before it is the African powerhouse, and Africa is a massive continent with soon to be billions of people. Why is Ethiopia going to be its power? Why not the 50 other nations? Why not nations which are already powerful nowadays, like Nigeria, Egypt, or South Africa? Well, to be honest, most of the 50 other nations shouldn't even exist. They were drawn up by the Europeans using straight lines and rulers, ignoring natural and ethnic boundaries. Ethiopia was the only major African power to survive this, and even if it were colonized for real, the mountainous core provides a physical territory the Ethiopians could have used to unite themselves. During the population growth of Africa, it's very likely many of these countries will collapse into smaller nations bounded by ethnic and geographical lines which actually make sense. Some important countries nowadays have a good chance too. Ethiopia's ethnic diversity is on its outer borders. Its future civil conflicts will be minor compared to some of the others African nations will experience. That's what the Tigray War is, a small uprising with no real chance of splitting off from the country. But even then, there will be new nations to rival Ethiopia, and many nations have a good chance of surviving too. How will Ethiopia face the other African nations? In its direct vicinity, there are weaker nations like Somalia. The Somali have caused quite a big geopolitical reaction compared to their size from their location directly along one of the busiest trade routes in the world, and their little anarchy which has caused a little piracy along that route. Almost every major world power wouldn't mind a strong East African power to keep the Somalis in check. In fact, Ethiopia used to own northern Eritrea, but it split off, taking the nation's coastline. If, in the future, Ethiopia were to take back Eritrea, the nations of the world might just look away, hoping for a stable naval power in the region. But there's one real power that might be in the way of Ethiopia's plans. If you go along the rivers of Ethiopia and then go downstream, you'll find the flatlands of Egypt. Currently, Egypt is a regional power and quite a strong nation at that, yet its future is looking a little weak and shaky. If Egypt wants to make itself an African power, it has to act within the next decade, either improving its country or through a classic war. But why would Egypt ever want to attack Ethiopia, especially in such a strong defensive position? It's all about electricity. Currently, 90% of Ethiopia's energy comes from hydroelectric dams, and their biggest and best one yet is the Grand Renaissance Dam on the Blue Nile. This will create a butt-ton of energy for the Ethiopians, allowing both urban and rural development to rocket. But as the dam fills, Egypt, as a country which relies so much on one water source, fears a loss of water and food production. And as already a not-so-stable nation, a small change in food production and prices could have catastrophic effects. Egypt does not want this dam. They have tried compromising, they have tried to stop construction of the dam, they have even suggested blowing it up.
And you can't blame Egypt for being a little bit upset, right? And it's a very dangerous situation because Egypt is not going to be able to live that way. And they'll end up blowing up the dam. And I said it, and I say it loud and clear. They'll blow up that dam.
To Ethiopia, building this dam might send them into a golden age of development. But to Egypt, building this dam would mean a death sentence. Tensions are rising in the region, and as one of Egypt's only times to act, it's getting likelier that the inevitable might happen. A war between these two countries would be one of the largest of the 21st century, and nobody wants to deal with that. Yet, if the war were to happen, even with Egypt's larger and more advanced army, Ethiopia is in such a good position that it is not going anywhere if it loses. If the 1900s were the American century and the 2000s are the Asian century, then the 2100s is certainly the African century. At the forefront of this new Africa will be Ethiopia, one of, if not the continent's powerhouse. With a core made out of the Ethiopian highlands, the country is one of the only African nations to have physical features that unite it together. And as the only African